Yes, will do.
Great. Okay, we'll get started a little early just because then maybe we'll be done a little early or we'll have time for questions. Hi everyone, my name is Heather Green and I am a teacher on special assignment supporting early childhood. So for the purpose of this presentation, we're talking a lot about preschool, TK, and kindergarten, but early childhood includes up to 8 years old for the California Department of Ed.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Hosmer. I am also a TOSA supporting students in early childhood. Welcome.
Welcome. Okay, so we're going to tell you a little bit why we have this presentation for you. And then we're going to go into the PTKLFs, terrible acronym. They're the Preschool Transitional Kindergarten Learning Foundations for the state of California that were just edited and published this summer. We're going to talk a little bit about neurodiversity affirming practice. We're going to share some resources with you, and then we're going to have some Q&A time and also hopefully some time to actually pull up the learning foundations and explore them with you a little bit. So why are we here? We're here for a couple of reasons. One, I'm sure it's surprising to none of you that our early childhood classrooms are struggling. Our littlest learners are having a hard time. We're seeing more behaviors. We're seeing a lot more, we're seeing a lot more, a lot more behaviors. We're just having a harder time with what our classrooms look like. We're serving the youngest students we've ever served in TK this year. Kindergarten teachers are still serving a mix of students that have never been in school or didn't go to TK and those that have had preschool and TK. Our students have shifted post-COVID, and I think that we were waiting for them to get back to normal, and this is our normal, so now we have to shift. And then our priorities are shifting as a state and around standards. There's a desire for more play-based learning. There's a desire for building a stronger foundation for social emotional skills. This is a very abridged version of a presentation that we did for all of our TK and kinder general education teachers earlier in the fall. And it took us a while to be able to gather all of you in one place. And so we're hopeful that this information is helpful and empowering for you, even if nothing else, just to understand what page everyone is on. So far, a version of this information has been shared with elementary principals, speech and language pathologists, ESS, and gen ed, TK, and kindergarten teachers. So some of this is going to be repetition of what you might already know. We'll kind of go over that quickly, and others of it is really relevant and focused on how you can use these learning foundations to write goals and inform your practice.
Okay, so the California Preschool TK Learning Foundations were revised this summer, and I'm sure everybody's been reading them and familiarizing themselves with them in all your free time. But if you haven't had that chance, that's what we're here to hopefully help get you familiarized with them and know what you're looking at when you do get a chance to pull them up. The foundations are really important because, like Heather said, we're really trying to emphasize that we're using these to be a foundation for what our expectations are and how we're setting up our environment as well. So they really provide that lens to understand our students' development, what their needs are, where they're coming from, and what to expect as they are going through preschool and TK and into kindergarten. When we pull up the foundations, when you go through each of the different domains, you're going to see two categories, and they're broken down. The first one is from 3 to 4.5. So that's going to start with our preschool age students and then carry into TK for half of the year. And then the other category starts at 4 and goes to 5.5. So that'll be taking our students from TK into their kindergarten year.
And also just a reminder that, like, for some of our students that might have developmental delays, you may have a 6-year-old where this stuff is relevant to them. And so also thinking about it through that lens, not just the age, but also where they are developmentally.
Yeah. And then too, just kind of reminding everybody that as a state, we are working towards a preschool through third grade alignment when we're thinking about early childhood education, and that these foundations are really part of that greater alignment and work that we're all participating in. When you open the foundations, there are a lot of different categories. These are them. The first two, approaches to learning and social emotional development, are great places to start. Approaches to learning are really those ready to learn skills. So that's one that we're really trying to dive into, to really understand, what should our teaching look like? What should our expectations look like? And how can we support our students to be ready to learn in school? And then again, that social emotional development piece is always so important as well. So great places to start, but these are all the rest of the different categories that you'll see. And we really want to use these when we're kind of looking at our learners and understanding where they thrive and what they need support in. So, we're so fortunate to be working with our youngest learners. They're so much fun. They have so many great skills. They're authentic, they're honest, they're enthusiastic. They really connect to their emotions and feelings and share those pretty
Out of all of the pores of their body.
yeah, sometimes. They're creative and imaginative and curious. My favorite is like asking what's like your third favorite color. So, just so many fun areas that they really thrive, but really, taking those areas they thrive and kind of using them when we're looking at the areas they need support in. Some of the areas they need support in, as we know, emotional regulation. We're really trying to focus on using the word co-regulation instead of self-regulation. It's really developmentally appropriate at these younger ages to need that co-regulation with an adult alongside them.
If you look at the letters next to these bullet points, those are for the learning foundation that it applies to. And so something that you'll notice as you go through the learning foundations is that the earlier learning foundations say with like extensive adult support typically, or with adult support, and then the second set says with adult support. So it's not developmentally appropriate for most of our students to expect them to do pretty much any of this stuff independently yet. And as someone who taught preschool for 10 years, I can tell you I wrote many, many, many developmentally inappropriate goals about students independently doing X, Y, or Z. And I think that we obviously want to work towards independence, but we want to make sure that we're doing it in a developmentally appropriate way.
Okay. So we're also working on helping them navigate conflict, problem solving, perspective taking. And we're kind of just reminding people too that like these areas of need are expected. This is, what where their needs are at for this age. This is what we should expect to walk through the door every day and support them in learning in these areas. So when you see kids struggling in these areas, it's just important to remember that this is developmentally appropriate for them to need support and extra learning in these different areas.
So, like Nicole just said, this is like basically a list of all the things that you'll hear frustrate educators in the classroom about their learners. And it's just a reminder and something for you to remind yourself, your staff, your teams, referencing like, okay, one of my favorite things that Nicole says is just because something's annoying doesn't mean we need to address it. It is appropriate for our learners to struggle with all these things: transitionings, waiting their turn, remembering rules, not blurting, keeping their hands to themselves, sharing, communicating, task completion, sitting still and in one place for an extended amount of time, being flexible, all of those pieces. And I know that like most of the goals I ever wrote for IEPs were in these categories. And it has helped me reframe thinking about like how we're going to word those goals, what's realistic, what's fair, and thinking about some of the things that our students who have had IEPs for a long time are able to do that like none of their gen ed peers are able to do because we've been like training these little robots to like follow these little schedules, right? And I think giving ourselves some freedom and flexibility to like let that be hard for everyone and not feeling like you have to get them to be perfect in all of these categories because struggling through them is part of their learning process. Um, this one is kind of your FYI for what we shared with our gen ed colleagues, which is that their biggest area of struggle is whole group instruction. And so we really wanted them to consider that they're being very thoughtful about the purpose and how instruction is delivered. Per the Learning Foundations, really circle time or any activity for our TKH students should not be more than 10 minutes. And our kindergarten whole group instruction should not be more than 15 until maybe the end of the year, it's approaching 20. I know that I had many 30-minute circle, and I would have told you that my students were very successful in that circle. So of course I should keep doing that circle. But as I have done this work and engaged in it, really the argument is not just that it's not necessarily developmentally appropriate, but also that in our early learning environment, this is the only time where play and exploration is embedded in our instruction right now. Once they're out of kindergarten, the designated playtime becomes only the playground. And we all know that like that is not the best playtime for most of our students. And so we really need to be thoughtful about, is what I'm doing that extra 10 or 20 minutes in my circle time actually more valuable than what they could learn or practice in play or social skills? And really rethinking about what our role is in running a classroom with our early learners and how we're delivering instruction. Obviously, this is something that all of you do beautifully, is that flexible seating and the access to sensory support. And what we're really saying is just because they can doesn't mean they should. So just because they can sit nicely for a circle for 30 minutes does not mean that that's the best use of their school day time for you, for them, or for anyone. Okay, so neurodiversity affirming is practice. The neurodiversity movement is, for those of you that aren't familiar, is born out of young adults who came out of a time where they were getting lots of social thinking, lots of whole body listening, and lots of ABA. And they are telling us as young adults, hey, that was harmful to me. That wasn't actually effective to me. Like either I always felt like the bad kid because I couldn't do whole body listening, or I masked in order to do that. And I expended all of my energy um, making myself compliant, and I wasn't able to have any energy left for connection and real learning and real engagement with the curriculum and the learning instruction. And so we are really trying to encourage folks to move away from whole body listening as though there is one way to listen, and moving to whole body listening in terms of having our students explore and helping us support them exploring how they use all of their body to listen best for them. And when you get this, you'll be able to click on this link and it will take you to the folks who created Whole Body Listening, Larry, and their statement on this and kind of the updated poster so that you have that resource. The book that goes along with that is Listen, Learn, and Grow. There's going to be a link for that at the end of this presentation. And it's an incredible book about helping kids learn how to accept that everyone listens differently and that in order to listen, we have to be regulated. So we just put some of this in it, like we can't learn unless we're regulated. That's really important. We all know that, but like saying it out loud and making sure our kids know that and that we're making regulation a learning goal. It talks about all the different ways what helps you listen. Is it music? Is it silence? Is it noise? Do you like to look at someone? Do you like to take notes? What does that all look like? This one I love. Some mouths are still, others echo, hum, or chew. If everyone is learning, please do what works for you. So really helping kids learn, what do I need and how do I get what I need without disrupting the learning of the people around me. They have like affirming things about how we use our hands and our bodies, listening, stimming, how we move our bodies, where we sit and what we access while we sit. Like, are we standing? Are we on a wobble chair? Are we in a cube chair? And this is really just an affirming thing that, like, we're all unique and we have a right to listen in the way that our body needs to. And our main job is to find out what works for us and use that so that we can learn and access learning. It's a great book. It's like pretty inexpensive on Amazon. I also have a copy that I am very happy to lend out if you're interested in it. And Nicole and I have both taught the lesson to classes. So if you'd like us to push in and teach a lesson in your classroom with that book, we're happy to do that. This is just like another visual that you can use that, instead of whole body listening, we're whole body learners. And there's different ways to do that. What do we look like when we're learning?
Yes. So this is for you guys. I know we have a very, very short amount of time today, so we wanted to give you lots of resources that you could look at later. This first link is to the foundations, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes to go into those to kind of show you the layout. Whoopsies. This one here is about the Greater California Preschool to 3 alignment information. We have an essay here on play-based learning. And then we have a link to our bigger presentation that we gave to TK and kindergarten teachers in the fall. So there's a lot more information in there. It kind of goes into behavioral things as well. There's lots of visual examples. So just a great reference if you'd like to get more information on kind of the things we've been talking about today. Behaviors, communication, is that the little poster?
Yeah, that's the little poster. You can click on that and show it to them. We have time.
Where'd it go? So this is a link to, this is our behavior is communication handout that we have been giving out at different trainings and presentations. It goes through the main 4 reasons about why you might see behavior happen, and then strategies for you to help build your toolbox in supporting students through those behaviors. So that's a good one to give to your staff or to post in your classroom. We have the whole body learning poster and the book linked in here, and then there's some more information on neurodiversity as well.
So we're going to take some time, since we have it, to show you and walk you through what the learning foundations look like. So when you click on the link, it'll bring you to this page, and there's all these domains. The at a glance is really nice for just a quick reference, but if you're using it for goal writing, we really recommend opening the whole piece of it. Approaches to learning is definitely my favorite and what I think is the most relevant, but the academic ones are also really good. And we're just going to kind of walk through and show you what it looks like. So there's, can everyone see the screen? Yeah, okay, good. It's going to take a minute to load. Okay, here we go. So each of the foundations has its own, or the sections has its own whole little piece, and it tells you like how they're organized, what setting up the environment, creating opportunities to play. This is really great stuff for sharing with teachers and teammates. And then they have categories in each of the foundations. And what's really nice about them, and then they have a glossary, which is really helpful. What's really nice is it really talks about what they are and why they're included. So this is going to be really helpful when you have parents that are asking you to write goals that are not developmentally appropriate, which I know we all have, or even other teachers or teammates. It's a great thing to reference back to and help guide that conversation about like what should be happening in those environments. It's a lot of really helpful information. And then when you get to the actual foundations, here we go. It will tell you a little kind of summary about it. And then it will tell you like exactly what it looks like and examples of that. So it's really a helpful, like explicitly lined out way of thinking about it. And you can take some of these examples or even the foundation itself and easily translate it into an IEP goal. And I think that's what I really like about it. Oftentimes goals like this are hard to tie to something, and now we have something really tangible to tie them to, that they're a standards-based piece. You want to talk about what we did for preschool?
Yeah, so as part of our exploration with our preschool ed specialists, we are kind of taking these foundations and sort of starting to try to link them to some of our go-to goals. So I'm sure most of us kind of have our own little goal bank of some of our goals that we need to use a lot. And so what we're trying to do is really find some time, perhaps, you know, when you're preparing for your IEP, you can take a few minutes to kind of glance through the different categories. And then we started with a Google Doc where we're kind of linking those goals to the foundation so that later when you're writing your goals, you can really easily put down which foundation that you're working towards.
And it is our hope slash intent, next school year in the fall to do a learning foundations TLC. And so if we do that, we will definitely carve out time, as part of that conversation to also talk about learning goals and IEP goals as part of that process. But if you do job alikes, if you have friends in preschool, if you want to be connected to that conversation with us, reach out and let us know. We're happy to talk to you more about that and include it. Go ahead.
One other really nice thing in the foundations, if you scroll past some of them, there's going to be more blurbs about how you can support your students in these different learning areas. So the foundations themselves are great, but there's just so much wonderful information in here for you guys to explore. So I would definitely encourage you to, as you're looking through these, take an extra minute or two to skim through these different narratives that are kind of helping you take those foundations and supporting you in directly applying them in your classroom.
Is we never go faster than the time and somehow we did. So can you tell us in the chat, like, what would be helpful? Do folks want to like take some time to like dive into one particular section and share some goals so that we have that? I can throw together a Google Doc really quickly for this. Do people have specific questions about anything that we covered? How can we make this time meaningful and helpful to you? Put it in the chat or unmute yourself and tell us.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hi, I just have a quick question. How would you help, like, because I feel like what I'm struggling then is when I'm trying to make, as an ed specialist, as I'm trying to make goals for my students, and how you were saying how it's now being like a co-regulation versus a self-regulation. So then would I put in with no more than 2 prompts to make it more, and I know every child's different depending on their actual.
So I think with co-regulation, I would say in there with adult support and then really specify what that means for that student. Because it's less about prompts and it's more about participating in it with them. Does that make sense?
Okay, okay, yeah.
So it's not like I'm telling you, take a breath, take a breath. Like the prompts would be like getting the student to the calm down area or getting the student to make a choice. But the
Mhm.
co-regulation piece is like that I'm participating in it with them. So I like you can even say specifically like given
It's just so weird because it's like
or
not
like adult support for co-regulation or like a
okay. You're running a
participate
fever in your body.
participate in co-regulation um participate in co-regulation activity or tool, like access a co-regulation tool with an adult.
So access, okay.
Yeah, so I think
And
just like really laying out there that like an adult is going to be part of that like it is very clear that like
mhm,
telling a kid to go to the calm down area and pick a tool is probably not appropriate to like 7 or 8 years old.
mhm.
Was news to me and made me feel very bad for all the goals that I wrote for many, many years. So, but also it makes sense why like they never met the goals, right?
Yeah,
Like I'm feeling a
definitely.
little bit better about that. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. What other questions can we answer? How can we be supportive?
Hello, I have a quick question
Yeah.
about the play-based hour. And is it 1 hour continuously? Is that the recommendation, or is it third? It could be chunked.
The recommendation is 60 minutes of uninterrupted child-led play-based learning for TK. Whether that's happening in every classroom or not is another story, but that is the recommendation. I think that what we are coming across is that for our students that need a lot more structure, that approach is going to look a little bit differently. So it can be child-led, and that one of the things we've been doing is like a mini schedule. So having students choose ahead of time what they're going to do and moving through it on their own time frame, but having something to reference to. Because I know oftentimes we'll have a student that starts somewhere and then they just like start dumping everything out, or like running around amok. And if they have a schedule that they've set with you, that makes it child-led, but there's still some structure to it.
And I think some teachers too are like putting out different, like more structured table choices. I think we need to, again, look at this through a flexible lens of how can we make it successful for all of our different learners. We're always encouraging our teachers to be flexible and creative in how we can support them. So,
Thank you. I also have one more question. Do you have and there are some families I think are pushing back with the play-based aspect. Do you have a quick blurb about when families have that pushback, or quick, what would you say?
Yeah. So, I think the big thing that we're saying is that our kids are meeting and exceeding their academic standards, but they are struggling socially and emotionally. And that social emotional foundation comes into play academically as they progress, as we're moving towards more collective learning experiences and interactive learning experiences. Play is the foundation for all of that. Play is the foundation for communication. Play is the foundation for literacy. And so I think talking about play in terms of what it is doing for a child's brain can be really helpful. And that's so when I talk about that for individual students, I'm like, oh yes, like your student really, really knows their letters, or maybe they're already even reading. But in order for them to really comprehend their reading, they have to understand narratives, and narratives start with play. And so if we don't give them opportunities to practice that, then they're not going to be able to really, when that switch happens from second to third grade, from learning to read to reading to learn, that jump isn't going to happen. Or we talk about, cooperative, like how much of work and the workforce is very, very cooperative based, and that all of this play is foundational to learning how to be in a cooperative learning community.
And another thing that Heather brings up a lot, which I think is a good reminder, is if kids are struggling, particularly in academic areas as they're going, progressing through the grade levels, there are always opportunities to give them extra support in reading or give them extra support in math. But really in preschool, TK, and kindergarten, these are their only opportunities to learn through play and to build those social skills and
have adult support to do it.
And learn those problem solving skills. And after that time is gone. So there isn't that chance to then, really give them that support as they're progressing through those upper grade levels. So it's really important that we build that foundation now and we give it to them now, because then it goes away and it becomes, recess, but that's not direct instruction time typically.
Did I answer your question?
Yes. So thank you, because I love play. I mean, even as adult for kids. And so this is a new thing that I'm having to tackle, where play is not a priority. So thank you for that blurb. And I
Hey,
appreciate it.
Heather,
Yeah.
I just want to throw in too, when you have the parents and they're thinking about the word play, they think about the word play at home, like what they see. It's more of an exploration in our classrooms where they're exploring their playtime and they're exploring the things that they have in their room. So you could probably use that word to help better describe it, because I know there's some touchy parents that'll be like, what do you mean my kid's playing all the time? So just to put it out there for you.
Yeah, that's a great framework. Even just like differentiating between what play at home looks like and play at school, right? Like, yeah. What other questions can we answer? Those are great questions.
I'd like to follow up. You mentioned that the adults are there to support the children in their play and in their exploration. And I'm curious if there's any kind of guidance on a ratio, like adults to students.
So Gen Ed TK's ratio is 1 to 12, moving to 1 to 10. So in our classrooms, no, there's like recommended support levels, and it all gets real messy. And I
Yeah,
think it
because
really
I'm finding like you discover these behaviors when they come into school, right? Some of the
Right.
behaviors are more apparent now, and they may not have a one-to-one or a supplemental at this point. It's a year out, but I'm curious what should we be looking at as far as support levels for the kids? It's hard to get an adult with a student when they all go in separate directions if they're young enough at TK level.
Yeah. I think the first thing that we recommend is just giving a little bit of time. Obviously we get kids who are often new to school. Maybe they've never even been away from mom and dad before. Maybe they've never been with other kids before. And so really trying to adapt our environment, adapt the supports we're providing, and giving them some time to adjust before we kind of jump in and feel like there's a higher level of support needed. We really want to exhaust all those tier 1 supports and accommodations that we can within our classroom. And then, if time has passed and those supports have been added and adjustments have been made, I think conversations can then be, had with your program specialists and other teammates about like what their support needs might be from that point on, because it's going to depend on each student.
And I think also remembering that independent play and then parallel play and then cooperative play, that's a continuum. And so you don't have to feel like if they're not ready to play together yet, like you can work on playing with like materials at the same table, right? And giving yourself some grace there, that like not all students are ready to do like pizza party imaginative play yet, right? Like some of our students are just working on tolerating someone being in their play space using a material that they might want, and that is reasonable and appropriate.
But absolutely, I am curious though, is there guidance on what a ratio should be expected to be in an ESN TKK? No?
Not that, Judy, Monday, do you know?
No.
All right, does he mean like in groups, like when you're working in, do you mean like in groups? When
No,
you're
I mean
working
the
in the
classroom.
classroom?
Staffing, are you talking about staffing ratios?
Staffing, yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
so reach out, I mean, you can reach out
I'm
to your
just curious.
program specialist. I don't think there's state guidance. I think it's dependent on the needs of the student and their IEPs and how our district is staffing and structuring those.
Okay.
What other
Thank you.
questions can we answer?
Just go to 11:30.
Yeah, but we can finish done early. Okay, well, we're gonna stop recording and hang out here and answer any questions for folks that want to stay. But please feel free to email us. The presentation, the slide deck will be available in the catalog. We hope that this was helpful for you. If as you're get to an IEP and you're wondering about this, feel free to reach out to us. We really, we know that there's not a lot of time built in for us to explore these, but I think that they ultimately will make us all more successful in our teaching practice when we are approaching things from a developmentally appropriate lens and we're all on the same page. We can build a stronger foundation for our students together, and we want to be part of supporting you in doing that. So our email address is in the chat, and we will stay on for anyone that has questions, but happy Progro Day.